Hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again with another instalment of my ongoing series, Till the Fabled End, in which last week we looked at Jack of Fables Book 1, and in this week we're going to be looking at Jack of Fables Book 2. That was our homework. So, with no further ado, let's jump straight into it. We've got Jack of Fables Deluxe Edition Book 1 here. This is the cover, not a very good image. This is the spine, not in keeping with the Fables hardcovers, which we'll obviously talk about later on in the video. And then this is the back. Not a fan of this artwork. Slightly fourth wall breaking quotes here of Jack reviewing his own comic. And this is issue 17 to 32. These are the Page sisters, which you'll get to know more as you read this volume. Inside front French flap. Sorry, that's the term. And this is the rear French flap, which is just the bio details. Let's get the covers off. Let's see what this looks like. So the actual hardcover under the dust jacket has got this image from one of the issues. It's got the exact same kind of spine as we saw in the dust jacket itself, and then we've got this issue, which I guess is in keeping with kind of Jack pretending to be Napoleon in his boxer shorts. So what does this issue have in it? So this is, I believe it's trade paperbacks 4 to 6, issue 17 to 32. And these are the arcs: Americana, Gary Does Denmark, 1883, Turning Pages, and Books of War. The introduction for this is written by the Pathetic Fallacy in character. This is a character in the Jack of Fables stories, one of the literals. It's a decent intro, but again, it's a hallmark of exactly what I criticised in the last episode, which is the fact that so much of this is fourth wall breaking to an extent which is, it's not just clever and literary like the Fables is, it's a bit too much for my taste. Anyway, we have Humpty Dumpty, Jack, and various things going on. So, overall, I have to say this volume was good. It was fun. I enjoyed reading it. It's, especially towards the end, the 1883 arc and so on, it does get a lot better. Yeah, as you can see here, solid, competent artwork. It's nicely put together, nicely framed, nice binding, nice paper and print quality. So generally it's good on your shelf if you enjoy this sort of stuff. And it introduces like a new antagonist called the Burner, who's quite interesting. Yeah, it's a decent volume. I think the two main criticisms I have of it remain the same, which is that Jack remains an unlikable character in this. He's not a lovable rogue. He's not a Han Solo-esque scoundrel. He's just a bit of a dick who you wouldn't lend money to and who you wouldn't want to hang out with in a pub. That's basically what Jack is like. And that does make it hard to have any kind of empathy with him. There's nothing about him that isn't cowardly and stupid and just kind of frustrating from my perspective. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of these kind of comedy vignettes. These are fourth wall breaking, and again, it's all just kind of this riff from the Blue Ox that goes with Paul Bunyan. Comedy, feed line, pause, punchline. These pages are completely standalone. What I'd be quite interested in is whether or not they ever looked at releasing just a trade paperback of just these single pages, because there are so many of them. There's normally one in every issue. So they've got enough for 50 or 60 of these if they wanted to. Right, on that note, story continues. And yeah, it's decent. It's got some quite clever bits. Definitely readable. Definitely glad I read it. Sex, adventure, the like. But what I would say is, again, if this wasn't already a hardcover in my collection, I don't know if I would have gone out and bought it. Again, Blue Ox. Feed line, comedic pause, punchline. So the story here is Jack of Fables still trying to get his fortune, still trying to woo women, still trying to generally be a scoundrel. Doesn't really have much organisation or thoughts. This is a one-off story called Gary Does Denmark, hence the artwork slightly different. Yeah, and so it just continues. Now this story here, 1883, I have to say, this is a tonal shift. This is a strong, mature, great story, basically. This is well in keeping with the way Fables has been, and in fact it does feature Bigby Wolf as a, here we are, Bigby Wolf is the main character in this. This is about Bigby coming to track down Jack and find out what's going on with him. It's set in the 19th century, so it's set well before the Fable stories we're used to. But this is overall a really good story. because it's quite serious throughout, and it's serious and it's fun and it's well written and it's just a good, well-intended story. What it does at the end of each issue, it has just an idiotic comic non sequitur thing. Comic as in comedic. So here again we have the Ox. Feed lines, pause, punchline every single time. Right. The story 1883 continues, and as I say, good story, enjoyed it. I'm not sure which trade paperback it's in, but like I say again, every issue ends with comedy moment, and then it goes into the next issue. Those comedy moments are completely non sequitur, by the way, and then it continues here, and this is all very, very much sort of like dark western, pretty intense story, and again, comedy moment at the end. Then it takes us to the actual main narrative, the contemporary narrative we're used to. And this is a 3-issue story called Turning Pages, which covers the 3 Page sisters. If you already read Fables hardcover 10, you'll be familiar with the Page sisters. They're 3 literals, members of the literal community, that Jack has, I'll say wooed, to be euphemistic about it. But yeah, so each issue is about a particular Page sister. I forget the names. One of them is called Hillary. One of them is called Robin, I think. I think this is Robin. And Priscilla? Possibly Priscilla. But yeah, each of these issues is about a particular Page sister. They're pretty good, but again, we see constant interludes, comedy, non sequitur interludes from the Blue Ox riffing on Snoopy or Garfield, whatever you want to think about it as. So there's that issue, and then this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, of things happening which are just too fourth wall breaking. I know those people that like some of the Grant Morrison Animal Man stuff might enjoy this, but for me it's like, come on, I no. There's a line of intelligent literary metafiction, Sandman and Fables and things like that, and then this, people talking about speech bubbles and sorts, it's a bit too much. So this is the 3rd Page sister, and as we continue, as you'll see, there's a lot of actual story going on, a lot of action, a lot of battles and bits and pieces. So overall, as long as you can ignore kind of the fourth wall breaking stuff, what you've got here is a solid story with a lot of interesting and engaging characters. Here we see Kevin, who we've seen in the Fables hardcovers, up until I think hardcover 5 or 6, and we're going to see again in Fables hardcover 10. Comedy Ox moment. And then, yeah, as long as you can get past the fourth wall breaking stuff, as long as you can get on board with Jack as the protagonist, which I kind of couldn't, the rest of it still carries the story. It's good, it's interesting, and it builds up quite nicely to what we're going to be talking about at the end of this video. More moments from the Ox there. Yep. I don't want to give too many spoilers, so I'm kind of flicking through. Quite a lot of interesting stuff happens at the end. And then if you get right to the final issue, which again, of course, isn't safe from the Ox moments interspersed throughout it. If we get to the final issue, then big explosions, major things going on, action, drama, intrigue. And it ends at the Dino Diner, he says. What is the Dino Diner? Here, this is it, the Dino Diner. The Dino Diner is where we find Jack and the literals at the start of the next story, which I'll talk about in just a second. Here at the end, we have the various special features, which are all pencil sketches. Always nice to see those. And that is the end of Fables Volume 2. Now, Fables Volume 2 ends on an issue 32, which basically means it then continues in the next 3 Jack of Fable issues, with 33, 34 and 35, but they are contained here. They're contained in Fables Volume 10. Let's just have a look at Volume 10 again. We have already looked at it in this series, but as you can see, the spines do not line up. So if you were to have this interspersed amongst your Fables hardcovers, it looks quite jarring. So Fables Volume 10 contains the next 3 issues of Jack of Fables, and 3 issues of Fables, and a 3-issue miniseries called The Literals. So all of those issues are in here, and they form the entirety of the Great Fables crossover. Here are the Page sisters on the cover, Priscilla, Robin, and forget her name. And yeah, we've already read this. We already looked at this in video 10 here. It's a good story, and I quite enjoyed it. You don't need to read Jack of Fables to enjoy this, but now having read the first two volumes of Jack of Fables as hardcovers, I can totally see where a lot of the stuff here came from. I may or may not reread this in the next week. Obviously, if you haven't read it yet, then you're reading Fables in a really weird way if you read Jack of Fables first. But nonetheless, if you haven't read it yet, this is what you should read after Jack of Fables Volume 2. That's not our homework for next time. My assumption is that after reading Jack of Fables Volume 1 and after reading Jack of Fables Volume 2, what you're going to be doing is you've already read Fables Volume 10, bang, bang, bang. And so the next one, and our homework for next time, is going to be Jack of Fables, the final volume, deluxe hardcover volume 3, which I believe is the final 3 trade paperbacks 7 till 9. So I will catch everyone next week on our next video.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.